Test. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Good. Everybody here? Okay, good. Executive Director of Freetown. You got the Story Slam version to this. So anyway, I just want to thank you all, and I want to introduce our amazing MC. So
hi, everybody. It's 7 p.m. You know what time it is? Story time. All right. Thank you. Listen, I know that some of you have not thought about the story you're going to tell. But there's time. Because what's going to happen is someone will tell a story that will remind you of another story. And you will decide to get a piece of paper from Samantha. Samantha, raise your hand. You will fill that paper out and we will put it into this lime green basket. This lime green basket holds all the tales, all the television. We are being served. Thank you for coming to this poetry, let me say. I'm too tired of this way. At any rate, you know our Story Slam is presented by Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts in Indiana and sponsored by My Soul Organizers. And our media partner is WFYI. Tonight's theme, food. Fool. Food. Like my mom used to say, don't act the fool when you go to school. That was drilled into our heads. So we tended not to act the fool when we went to school. But then I got some stories to tell you, we forgot. Now the theme is broad, so you can use any interpretation you want to come up with that story. Because I looked up food is a British dessert made with fruit, served with cream. It appears to be delicious, but I've been breathed for maybe next time. The story should be a true story, told in the first person, no longer than 5 minutes in length. Yes, you can keep on talking if you want to, but we will take points away from you when it's time to school.
Oh, no, Dad.
You are not allowed to read. Not to use a cell phone. And it should be told in the first person, but I always say, if I don't see your nose move, how will I know it's not a true story? Our judges are out there. I hope they're coming. Hope they have done the right. We'd like to thank Shannon for running the live stream. Shannon over there. And home for those figures, so she's going to take me. I'd like to thank Samantha. Takes care of all things related to the slam. Except oddly enough, I do not have a drink in my hand. So somebody over there has got to get me a margarita, a good margarita too. No salt or sugar on the rim. But now it's green here. There's so many people here I can't see. Where are you? I don't even see them. At any rate, right now, I'd like to tell you that our next thing for May is a board game. BOARD. And we will be at Half Leader Barbecue at 5301 Winthrop Avenue. Okay? But right now, let me reach into this lime green basket and pull out somebody's name. And pull out the corners of my well, I have pulled the name out of this basket. And the person who has the honor of telling the very first story tonight at our Story Slam is Janet Collins. Right. Here's another. To the line, bring back. Jenny, can you make it?
She'll be right there.
While she's coming up, you might want to put in our next event on your calendar, our final event of the season. The old left coming in town on April 26th, 7 p.m. at the Indiana Historical Society. We can bring me those notes. Okay, the note. Okay. You know what? There are worse things going on in the world right now.
You can sit there if you want. You gotta get closer, louder.
There are worse things going on in the world right now. So I decided not to be afraid to tell the story. I'm going to tell a cat story today. Before, I have plenty of cat stories. Cats are my life. I'm a foster parent of cats. I tend to take care of senior cats. Older cats or sick cats. So I took in a new foster cat a couple weeks ago. And she had everybody. Where she came from, they got her from the city. Apparently she'd been astray. They named her Duchess. Duchess Little Toes because she had such dangerous little paws. And she was a small cat, on the scrawny side. And they said that she was an elegant cat. She would bring elegance to your household. But she enjoyed the finer things in life. She really had the cool. Because I took her home and it only took a little bit of time to realize that she was pure street. I don't think that she had ever been to that house before, or not often anyway. But most times when you're taking a cat, the first thing they do is hide. She wasn't hiding. She wanted to look around completely right away. She wasn't afraid of the existing cat. She wanted to know what was there to be afraid of. That on. I tried to train her in some house manners because if she was going to go to somebody's home, she needed to know how to behave. But she just couldn't see the difference between a scratchy post and a sofa. It was all the same as her. And she was a scavenger. And that told me straight. Because anytime that she could get food or more food, she would get it. But she didn't know. So look at the trash can. She didn't know what trash can was or what it was for. So that told me everything that I needed to know. She was an orange cat on the strong side. She had a bad cold. She was having seizures and blowing big drops and snot everywhere. They didn't know about that at the shelter. Because often what happens is you bring a cat home or an animal home is they have busy workers and they're dealing with lots of animals at a time. So they don't get to see everything that's wrong with them. I get home and I'm like the first person who's had one-on-one 24/7 with this animal. So they just didn't know how sick she was. Anyway, I read a poem about all of my fosters, and it's turned into quite a collection. And I wrote a poem about her, and I'm going to share with you now. She did what she had to do to survive. She ate when she had to go on. She slept in fits and starts, seldom relaxing. Anger too close and let her guard down. Cleaning herself was a luxury that she didn't have enough safety for. She never touched in her feet. She never stays still for very long. She has a hunger that is never sated, as opportunistic as food has always been. When a meal randomly presents itself, she doesn't hesitate, she goes in. Next, she can bend in her coat, back of her hind legs bare of food. Here's her oily cry, her big green eyes. One day she let herself sit down into the shelter she went. To let herself be cared for by once or twice a day. She doesn't take no for an answer. She wants petted for things she bites. She doesn't know what toys are. Have fun is not in her repertoire. She resisted all efforts to train her, since her own ways have served her well. Whether by little scrappiness still, she hunts the footsteps of her foster mother and dreams of a better life. She hopes to stay in this safe place, free now of hunger and strife. The time came when I realized that she was probably too sick to be there. She needed to be seen by the vets. And I took her back, and I knew she didn't want to die. What they found was that she was really ill, and they let her go. But I am grateful to have had that time with her. And I called her Urchin. They called her not just Little Toes, but I called her Urchin. That's what she was.
So, Stan, I got you.
I got it. Okay, you gotta use your stage voices so you can compete with the Andy and the race, please. And get that microphone right up there. All right, you guys can hear me, right? I told them a loud woman to take it as a compliment. Loud women rule the world. Listen, May 3rd at 2 p.m. at the District Theater, you might want to attend the Storytelling Boot Camp graduation show. Storytelling Arts of Indiana proudly offers this class in partnership for friends, family, and the Armed Services Arts Partnership on May 3rd at 2 p.m. at the District Theater, 627 Mass Avenue. Tickets are only $5. $5. 5 little ones. Okay. Now I know that you're thinking about another story, but I'm going to reach down here to my lime green basket, and I'm going to pull out another name. I'm mixing them up. I'm reaching all the way down to the bottom. I love it when they fold them, because when they fold them, they just gravitate to my hand. Our next color. No beauty. Don't get too comfortable, no.
Yeah. I absolutely love any time I can go to a restaurant for breakfast. I wouldn't go any other time if I'm given a choice. And that's been true most of my life since I was 10 years old, and my aunt was probably for eating a dozen biscuits and gravy. And we got lots of cheers for that, and gained a lot of weight later for that too. Well, I planned a ski trip. Well, I take it back. I planned the day after the ski trip at the South Bend Studebaker Mansion, where they served a Sunday buffet that was incredible. It had waffles, pancakes, omelets to order, every kind of meat you can imagine, parfaits, every fruit you can imagine that was fresh. It was an incredible place. I had been there one time before, The plan for the weekend was to stay in Lower Michigan for a day, for Saturday. Then get a pizza and go back to the hotel. There were 6 of us. And we were going to go back to the hotel, drink rum with hot cider and some orange slices in it. And it was a great plan, and it worked perfectly. We skied all day Saturday, no broken legs, no torn up knees, nothing happened other than the normal silly stuff that you see on a ski. So nobody seemed totally foolish during that time. Well, the next morning, after we had stayed up very late drinking and telling stories about what really happened and what didn't happen, I got up early. I had not been drinking. I was the one who stayed sober. And I got up and I was hungry. The buffet was not until 10 o'clock. So I went into the party room and I got an orange and I ate the orange. Then I chased that with a big glass of apple cider. And I don't know if you recognize the pool yet. But then we started to go to South Bend, which was a 40-minute drive. And halfway through that 40-minute drive, I foamed out loud, leaning my head against the window and complaining to everybody about how much my stomach hurt. It was awful. You pull up to the mansion, and those beautiful stairs going into the mansion, I almost bent double trying to get up the stairs. And then I get to our table, which had Michelle for 8 people. And we sat down, and I put my head on the table. And they asked if I wanted coffee, and I said no. They asked if I wanted juice, and I said no. And then I said, I think I'm just going to go out and sit in the foyer and play. So I went out there for that entire meal and put my head down. I did not taste the ramen. I did not taste French toast. I did not taste anything from that buffet, even though I paid for the buffet. And afterwards, driving back, I drank a small cup of water and started to feel better about a half hour from home. Doesn't matter then. I was starved, but there was nothing I could eat. And I'm going to give you this cautionary tale. If you get up in the morning and you're kind of hungry, don't eat an orange and chase it with apple cider. And even though that sounds healthier, go ahead and pick up the Oreos off the floor or the chips and use that for your snack. Thank you.
I will always remember that. I will always get the Oreos off the floor. Listen, you might want to know that on Thursday, April 17th from 6 to 7:30 at Indiana Landmarks, Conversations in Indiana's African American History. Join us for our monthly conversation with historians, researchers, and educators as we discuss topics related to Indiana's Black heritage. Our speaker will be local historian Leon Bates. We will be in for some entertainment and some information there. At the northwest corner of the intersection of East 16th Street and North Carrollton Avenue stands a storied red brick building constructed in the 19th century. From 1881 to 1922, it served as Indianapolis's fire department, Station 9, the second of Indianapolis's 4 Jim fire stations. You can imagine a Jim fire station. Okay, that's another topic. The history of the men who served here and those who eventually followed them is little known, unappreciated, tragic, triumphant, and intriguing. The event is free, but you might want to register. The doors open at 5:30 at Indiana Landmarks, 1201 North Central Avenue, and the talk begins at 6 p.m. So I hope to see you there. Listen, I know one story leads to another. So if you are listening and the story makes you think of one you could tell, it's not too late because Samantha has some blank slips you can fill out. We can put it into the lime green basket. But in the meantime, Joy Hill is coming up to tell us a story. Hi. Title of my story is A Fool in School, A Fool for Life. When I was a little girl, about ready to go to grade school, my mom sat me down in the living room. I remember very distinctly. She said, I am the mother of children. Your daddy is the father. He earns the living, and you as the daughter, your responsibility, your job is to go to school and do the very best that you can. And I took that advice to heart, and I taught myself, and I did well. And in fact, I was offered the opportunity to go to school for the gifted, but my folks didn't want me to do that. So I just came along and finished school. When I got to high school, things were just fine. I would come home from school, go up, do my homework, and then we would have an early dinner because my dad had office hours at night. And I would play the piano and I would have a good time. So everything was great. I was on top of things. My schoolwork was fine. I had fun. I had friends, etc., etc. When it came time for graduation, they gave me a special trophy for the most honor points. I was not the valedictorian, but they gave me the special trophy, which was very nice. But the most important thing is I won a national merit scholarship, and I was able to get 4 years of tuition at the school of my choice, sponsored by Indy. So I'm grateful to them. And I went to Harvard. Now, you would think that it would be easy sailing, but it was not. First of all, at orientation, the president said, at some schools, they said, look on your right, look on your left, at 6-week exams, one of you will be here. But she said, no, we don't say that. Everyone here belongs here, everyone will do well. Well, okay, that sounds good, but coming from a public school, I went to Shoreditch, which was the college prep school at the time, but still, my academic preparation was not equivalent to the kids that went to private schools. And how did I know that? Well, the first, we had to take this non-credit class in composition. My first paper, I got a D plus. Now, this was a good grade for that teacher, but the entire paper was covered with red pencil. Trite, redundant, redundant. But this teacher really taught me how to write. The other thing is that there's such a thing as the valedictorian syndrome, which is all the kids who come to these Ivy League schools are the best from where they came from. But you can't be the best there. No matter what you do, you stand on your head. There's no way you're going to be the best. You're usually the best. So at any rate, I did my best. And what I would do is, at the beginning of the semester, I would take the readings on one hand and my calendar on the other hand, and every week I would write what the assignments were for each class. So before you know it, I dropped out of the choir, I dropped out of the hiking club, I dropped out of modern dance. I dropped out of the international students group because I had to read this. So I spent most of my time in the library. I did have, dates. I didn't go to the movies with my friends, but it was not high school. High school, you know, this was no longer easy. So when it came time for graduation, I graduated with honors, and after the ceremony, I was standing with some of the counselors, and one of the counselors said, it takes some of the girls a couple semesters to realize
they don't have to read everything on the news. And I started to laugh. And I said, well, I guess I'm a slow learner. I did take an exam final year, and there was a question on the book I had time to read. I'd only read one chapter. I wrote out my answer, and I got a good grade. And this was astounding stuff. But at any rate, the lesson I learned from this is, if you try to study well, even though you may miss out on some of life's fun, there is a payoff. And also there's the pride of having done a job well done. And this followed me throughout my career. And I'm glad that I was in school and a school in life.
Wonderful, wonderful. Listen, there's a timekeeper out there somewhere. Who is it? If he raises his hand, that means that's 4 minutes. And your time is almost up. Yes, you can keep talking, but like I said, we're going to take away some points. And the judges are doing a fantastic job, and thank you for being here tonight. Listen, did you know on Saturday, April 26th, from 1 to 2 p.m., the Jennings County Historical Society is having the Sassafras and Civil War Living History Festival. Sassafras, come on, it's like that word. Come relive the 1860s as Jennings County lived through the Civil War, Underground Railroad, and daily life in pioneer America. Freetown Village Singers will be one of the featured musical guests, along with reenactments of battles, first-person interpreters such as Lou Wallace, I went to Lou Wallace High School, Hagerman Tripp, Oliver Morton, and others. There will be carriage rides, weaving, and other crafts, Times Square, the Blue Gray Ball, and much more. Now, you can't stay for the Blue Gray Ball because you need to be back in Indianapolis because Bill left will be at the Indiana Historical Society, our last event of the season. Now, I know that these stories kick your brain into gear to remind you of something that has to do with food. But as I reach into my lime green basket, think about it. Samantha has blank forms. You can fill it out. It's not too late. Because the next person telling stories, Tim Coe. Come on down.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My story is called Lawrence the Fool. Having grown up in the rural areas of Wisconsin and spent 4 years in college as a camp counselor, I came to love the woods and the trees. In fact, even to this day, I find it difficult to trim back a tree, and even cut off a branch, much less to take a tree down. And so in 1987, as I lived in the Chicago area, expecting my second child, my ire was raised when Lawrence came to town. Now, why he chose our neck of the woods to move to, I don't know. He was at the height of his career, at the height of his popularity, and he chose to come to the Chicagoland area and buy an estate. It was a beautiful estate in a town called Lake Forest. And he proceeded to paint the stockade fence on his estate a bright white, an offense to the people of Lake Forest. And he was immediately called out for it. And so he dutifully sandblasted the fence back to its natural wood color. He wasn't done irritating all of us in the Chicagoland area, because shortly thereafter, the word got out about the chainsaw massacre. You see, on his 7.5 acre estate, he decided to call in a crew and take down 100 mature oaks and maple trees. An offense to me so deep that I remember it to this day. In fact, the entire Chicagoland area was shocked by this behavior. He was excoriated by everyone in town, and the city of Lake Forest was beside itself with anger that he would do such a horrible thing to the trees. And yet, he felt it's my property. I can do what I want. As far as I'm concerned, I pity the fool who has no regard for nature and the beautiful trees. You see, Lawrence was a fool, better known as Lawrence Giroux, or by his mohawk and his nickname, Mr. T.
Oh, thank you, Daniel.
I want to stand up. Maybe by the time I go home. Listen, I know that story might kick your brain into overdrive and make you think about a story that you know with a fool in it. Because the first thing I remember when I saw the topic was my mother's word to her children as she gave them the once over going out the front door. Don't you act a fool at that school. And I know two little ladies, they sat there and they were sipping coffee, and each one started talking about which husband was more girls. She said, well, they made a bet. Whoever won the bet, the other had to make Sunday dinner for the other family. So the first woman went home and she looked at her old man and she said, oh, you don't look so good. And she made him get in the bed. And she put a towel around his neck and a poultice, and he started getting hot. He started getting warm. His cheeks started to burn. She said, he looked worse. Well, the other woman said, you know what? I hear so-and-so was taking low sick, and we need to go to his funeral. It's going to be any day now. I need to make you a new outfit to wear to that funeral. So she started sewing. And he looked, and he saw nothing. But she was just a cutting. Needles were flashing. And each day when he came in from the field, she would be sitting there sewing on his funeral outfit. In the meantime, the first little lady, she looked at her husband, oh, let me call the priest. It's time for your last rites. Now, he didn't feel too bad, but if she said he was sick, then he was sick. So the priest came on in and gave him his last sacraments. And before you knew it, they had to call in the undertaker, who brought in a casket. And they laid him out all nice and neat, had his Sunday go to meeting suit on, had the pallbearers lined up to take the casket out to the wagon, and the people lined up to attend the funeral. It was right then that the second old lady finished making her husband's suit. She made him take off his clothes, stripped down to his long john, and made him put on that brand new suit. And sure enough, they hightailed it to get to the funeral on time. They were the last ones in line. The people were crying and boo-hooing. The first woman was just the widow woman. Her tears were crocodile tears. She walked slowly behind the casket as her husband lay there with his arms crossed above his chest. He didn't feel too bad, but she said he was dead, and he must have been dead. People walked and walked and walked, and as the crowd grew, they looked to see the man in his brand new suit. Well, he was standing there in a set of red long johns, and the folks started laughing. They laughed until tears ran down their face. They laughed until they fell down to the ground. They laughed until they could hardly hold their stomach from busting a gut. And the man in the casket raised up to see what the laughter was all about. I don't know who had to cook for who,
For those two little old ladies who had two foolish husbands, and that's a true story. Right now, our next teller is Maureen Rooster. Come on, Maureen. Now, I know those stories are making you think of another story you want to tell. Samantha, raise your hand. She will give you a blank form to fill out so you can tell a story about who you were or knew.
So this story is about three fools. Two of them were young and college age men, often fools. And the third is actually a dish, it's spelled F-O-D-L, which is a common food in the Middle East. And it's kind of like baked beans. So these two fools had a big bowl of food for breakfast. And I went to their dorm room 2 hours later. I could smell something all the way down the hall. I opened the door. What do I see? With one of them bending over, another one lighting a spark, which was made this wonderful 5-minute explosion. They didn't even burn the bait. Burn their own down. So the next thing that happened a couple of weeks later, remember this, was one of the fools. We were all three of us had come up on the elevators. I lived on the 15th floor of the building, and it was a top floor. So we came up and we were just a few of us. And the door opened. There was a huge crowd of people. So one fool says, "Going up." They all stepped back. We were laughing so hard going down that we forgot we had to get off. But we did eventually. Then we had to crawl up the back stairs and avoid the elevators. And all those people in the seats. But it was fun. Then speaking of elevators, my roommate and I, living in the same room, went home for the weekend. When we came back, our entire room, from floor to ceiling, from front to back, was full of wadded up newspapers. And we went to English and Metropolitan State University, and there was a daily paper called The Lantern. And everybody had contributed their lanterns, all bunched up, and it was a lot of newspapers. So we got back kind of late Sunday evening, and we couldn't go in our room. It was completely stuck. Well, they had been waiting outside the door to see what happened. But we put them to work, and the whole floor helped to move all these scrunched up newspapers in great big laundry baskets on wheels. We had to take them down the elevators to the dumpster that was, in the basement. So anyway, these guys couldn't stop being fools. And both of them would hide under the newspaper in the laundry bin. It was probably this high on the elevator. And then, poor innocent people just right on. They suddenly jump up and, frighten everybody. But so we did that until about 2 a.m. And finally we were able to get back in the room. But we were feeling out newspaper for weeks. And so that's what happens with thieves, So another thing that they did. I'm sorry. I was going to give you history. The history of these two guys and me was that I went to an all-girls Catholic school. And one of these guys who actually, there was another thing, they were called Sam and Patty, like the Sam and Patty, because Sam was the Lebanese guy, and Patty was the Irish guy. And they were, always together. So they were known as Sam and Patty. But anyway, when we were in school, the boys were not allowed anywhere near our school, much less in the doors. So one day, Patty dressed up in his best suits and tie. We got a briefcase. He came to school and told the nun watching the door that he was coming to measure the drapes in the cafeteria. We didn't even have windows in the cafeteria. She let him in, and he came in and had lunch with us, and it was just really fun. He had the balls to do that. I couldn't believe it. So, and Sam was my boyfriend, And he was actually in a high school seminary preparing to be a priest. And here I was thinking I was going to be a nun. Well, somehow discovered an alternative existence. Who knew? But anyway, but Patty actually became one of the wealthiest men I know. So I guess being a fool isn't always a bad thing.
Thank you so much. Fools rush in. Listen, I know that some of you thought, oh, I got a story to tell. I got a live green bass that's getting kind of low. So there is still time to tell a story because my margarita is still pretty full. I finished. Hey, come on in. Our next teller is, they told us a little bit, Gloria Danielson. Come on down. So I'm not the judge. I'm where the judges are going. I know y'all can judge all the time. All right. Whatever. Okay. So we were married. Yeah, I can't. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. You're more going to say hi. So we were married about 4 years when we bought our first house. And that was back in the day when we got actually buy a house. And it was also back in the day when one of the first things you did was order phones. So you had to find a phone or usually work. You ordered your phone, and one of the things I wanted to know is where do you want the phone? What style of phone do you want? Do you want the box? Do you want the princess one? And what color did you want? I have different colors now. You have to have just black phones. Did you want a rotary or a touch tone? And I think I was delirious with it. So I ordered 3 phones. Why I thought this little house needed 3 phones, I don't know. But I wanted a white phone in my kitchen because it would go there. I wanted a red phone because it had red carpet. And I wanted a blue phone. So the day came there for the appointment, the technician was going to come and put the phones in, and my husband stayed home to supervise. Yeah, it was and so when I got back and I got home from work, he met me at the door, and I said, "Wait, do we get our phones?" And he goes, "Well, there was a little problem." So I should stop now and say that my husband and I were not well suited in the I was a open heart surgery nurse, and I approached life as serious as a heart. And he was a life of a party jock who I actually did his homework for in college. I mean, just everything was a party. And so I'm like, what would go wrong with right? So we get to the kitchen, and there is a red, white, and blue phone in the kitchen. I didn't even know they made such a thing. I was like, what? So there is a red receiver, a white cord, and a blue box with the dial thing. And I was like, how did you work here? How did you not do this? I'm sorry, it's worse. So we went into the master bed or the study, and another red, white, and blue phone. And this time, the cord or the receiver was white, and the cord was blue, and the box was red. And I was like, I'm getting madder by the minute. Like, how could you let this happen? I mean, this was an easy order. How could I don't even make phones like this? So we go into the bedroom, and another red, white, and blue phone. By this time, I'm gonna call them. It's too late, but I'm gonna call them in the morning. I'm shooting the riot act. He's finally like, okay, before you do, I just want you to know, by doing, I turned it out. I thought it would be funny. I thought, yeah, I thought it'd be hilarious. You look, just take those little pieces apart, and then so we had a white phone, a red phone, and a blue phone. You just mix the whole parts up. I thought it would be funny. And I was like, who is the bigger fool, right? Me for not knowing that you do this, take these little phones apart, or him for not knowing after 4 years. I would think this was fun. Oh, yes. That was hilarious. And those of us who were around when they had those phones, we kind of knew where that was going, you know. But those of us who don't even know how to use a rotary phone, you know what's worried. If you have problems with that, talk to my youngsters out there. Did you figure that out? No. Okay. Yeah. Listen, there's still time to tell a story about a food. Because you know we do give cash prizes. And the first place prize is $50. You know, and I'm running out of names to pull out of my lime brain basket. Okay? Think about it. Think about it. So right now, Chat Black is going to entertain us with a story about a food or some foods. I don't know. But here he comes to the stage.
My dad was gung-ho to encourage anything that I looked like I was taking an interest in. So like the first decent stereo we had in the house, I got to build from a couple of kits. People remember Heath kits now, but back then, wow, you had like Dynaco and Ico and a lot. I built those. They came from Southwest Technical. Their stuff looked like industrial salvage, but it sounded fabulous. So that was fun. And I had made a friend in 5th grade who was really into film animation. He made that his career after school. Dad saw me hanging with him, and so Dad subscribed me to filmmaking magazines, and Dad would like leaf through them with me. And that was how Dad got a business idea for himself. He saw the quality of 8mm film gear that was coming out and affordable. He figured he could have a business making low-budget TV ads for local merchants who would love to be on TV but couldn't afford the studio production costs. And so he bought this fancy 8mm camera from France that had this weird rechargeable battery from France that needed this special charger from France. And everything worked great until that special charger stopped working, and that right there made it hard to do business. And I had seen this other item in the Southwest Technical catalog, and I pointed it out to him. If I built that, he could use it to charge this new boat anchor that he had from France. And he didn't say anything right away, but he secretly made the decision that Santa would bring me that kit for Christmas. And I learned the secret because I'd already built a couple of their kits, and I knew the look of the little yellow postcard they mailed out in advance of the kit. And it said, be arriving about a week before. I slid the postcard back in the pile of mail like I'd never seen it right later. Because the idea of Santa bringing that kit to me didn't sound right. I mean, if this was to help Dad out with his business, by rights, Santa should be bringing it to him. And the only way I could think of to rectify that was wait until I had the house to myself and ransack all the closets till I found where he did that box. And open it up, not from the top, because that was taped and it would show. But there's big staples in the bottom. I could poke those right back in the same holes. After dumping all the parts out of my bedroom, put the empty box back in his closet. That gave me a few days to build the kit, which would have worked great if they hadn't left one part out of that kit. And I had to talk Dad into driving me to Radio Shack and buy some random little electronic part without telling him why. But after that, it went together smoothly, and I had another moment to myself to stick it back in from the bottom of the box and hide the box back in his closet for him to wrap and put under the tree. And then I just had to sneak down real quietly early Christmas morning, find the wrap box by the shape, and take the tag off with my name and put one on for him. And it couldn't have gone down any better. Like later Christmas morning, the sun is streaming in the windows. Dad's doing his whole grand festive MC thing. And, oh, here's a package. It looks like it's for you. He didn't even look at the tag. And I look at the tag and say, I'm not sure. You think this might be for you? And now he's a little puzzled. But sure enough, the tag says that. So he starts tearing the wrapping paper off, and it's the same box that he wrapped, and he opens the unopened tape on the top and looks in. Instead of a kit, there's this fully built little gadget with a red bow on top inside the box that he wrapped up and put under the tree. So I have tried since then, but I'm not sure I've ever fooled anyone better than that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, my neighbor Ben would do that anymore. Samantha is passing out those white canary yellow forms because we have one more giveaway. And that giveaway will be you get to attend Bill left on April 26th for free. So make sure you complete those forms so that we can pull your name out of a fishbowl later on. Now, it's not too late to put your name into the library basket if you gotta have a story to tell. Because I don't know how you can wait until next month, May, when we're at Athlete of Barbecue and the topic is board games, okay? Think about it now. I'm going to do a commercial before here, but if you got a story to tell, let Samantha know we'll complete. But right now, Jessica Heck got a story, a heck of a story to tell.
I don't have a title for this story. Night after night, after dinner, my brother and I would hash it out every night. I would say sports are an emotional and financial toilet bowl. You're taking money you don't have, spending it on teams that don't care about you, and that will eventually lose and will voluntarily ruin your own weekend for a team who doesn't care about you. I'm not smart for that. At that point, I would get up and use the table and thinking that I had the last word, but I never did. My brother, I hear him firing back from the kitchen. He was one of those people, one of those older siblings who thought that words should be used sparingly, especially the nice ones. But I knew that I could get him talking about this particular topic. He would say, but think about all the good that they do. Think about their foundations and the tax credit and all of the money that they earn for hotels and restaurants. If I was lucky, he would say, think about how sports provides good role models for children and encourages them to be. This was his weakest point, and he knew it because his athleticism was limited to buying tickets and wearing merch, aka being a billboard. Over time, his bedroom became a shrine, covered in foam fingers and signed tickets, all curated and displayed like the Ark of the Covenant or the Shroud of Turin. It was a bit extreme. When he got his first car, he would spend his weekend going to away games. He would come back with stories about getting spit on by the opposing fans or getting beer spilled down his back. He thought, Hi, what a foolish waste of time and money. I didn't know it at the time that he was betting, winning and losing big on these games. And my dad eventually had to step in, leaving me with a 10-year repayment. Again, I didn't think, but what a foolish waste of time. As an adult, he only doubled down. He bought season tickets for the Colts, the Pacers, and the Fever. He got a full leg tattoo with all of their logos on it. The debate would come up here and there, mainly at New Year's or March Madness. He used to have a Super Bowl party, and we would sometimes get invited. Until one year, I had a custom shirt made that said "I hate sports" and jersey font, and we never got invited back again. About 10 years ago, I ran across an article in the Onion, the satirical Onion, and it basically went like this. It said, 18,000 fans leapt to their feet as the thing went through the thing. Never before had the thing gone through the thing with such finesse and so many times as it did this afternoon. Video footage was shown from various angles and in slow motion to verify that indeed the thing went through the thing. It was perfect. It was my ace in the hole, once and for all proving the absurdity of professional sports. I was dizzy with excitement as I shot off an email to my brother. He didn't respond immediately. It took a couple of days. And I was certain that he was formulating his rebuttal, so I was formulating my counter rebuttal when his response came in. I opened it and it just read, "I guess you're right. At the end of the day, sports are pretty stupid. I believe the debate." And I hated myself for it. I felt like I had just blurted out that there was no Santa Claus. At the exact moment that I won the debate, I wanted nothing more than to lose it. I wanted to believe in community in whatever form that it would itself. It took me a couple of years, but I eventually came to realize that I didn't actually hate sports at all. I was jealous of them. I was the little sister pulling on his sleeve saying, "I just want a little attention to sports for myself." In the years since, the debate has not come up again. Sometimes he'll take my 5 kids to Colts games as an extra ticket, and he'll send me pictures of their faces painted in the stands. He'll come to my kids' sporting events, and I'll go to his, and I'll try and keep my stupid rule questions to a minimum. A few years ago, he found out that Indianapolis 500 ticket sales were dwindling, so he committed to buying 10 tickets for the extended family to share every year. He bought a Hawaiian shirt, but instead of tropical flowers, it has tropical colored cars all over it. We do a drawing before the race, and whoever's driver wins gets a cash prize. My 75-year-old dad did his first food shots in the stands last year. It's become one of my brother's favorite days of the year. And as crazy as it sounds, it's become one of mine.
Chelsea, I got you. Sorry.
Thank you so much. That was hilarious. You know, I'm home alone and I'm watching sports. And I had a cousin, Emma, who died a couple of years ago. And we would do the NCAA, brackets together. And she'd call and say, "Okay, where is this college?" So I get it. I get it. I had brothers who played sports, basketball. I would take my book to the baseball games, so I could read. All I was there for was the hot dogs and the peanuts. But I enjoyed that story. Thank you so much. Thank you. Listen, do you know about our upcoming events? Have I told you enough about them? Now, don't forget Bill left. that ain't the whole plan. On April 26th, 7 p.m. You know, Bill Leper's hilarious. He says half Dallas, West Virginia didn't have a water tower. So there was a lot of pent up emotion in the town. Why, if you can't spray paint I love you or I'm sorry on the water tower, how do you let people know your true feelings? What would happen if you opened a fruit store in town and sold used fruits and coffees? Well, if you come on April 26th, you might get the answers to some of these stories. Don't forget on the 17th at Indiana Landmarks, Leon Bates will be discussing Jim Crow fire stations. You need to call in or go online and register. But it's April 17th, 6 to 7:30 at Indiana Landmarks. Also, Freetown Village will have their singers at the Salsa Class and Civil War Living History Festival. And that is Saturday, April 26th from 1 to 2 p.m. Is there anybody out there who has a story about a fool that we haven't heard yet? You got a story? You know what? He's got a story he don't want to tell you. That's a shame. You know.
Is that all of them?
I'd like to thank our judges.
Sorry.
I'd like to thank Samantha. I'd like to thank Shannon. I'd like to thank you for coming in this nice cozy spot. I'd like to thank the Somos Family Restaurant for having us tonight. We'll be back later. We need the big room the next time. Next time, our main theme is board game. We will be at Half Liter Barbecue at 5301 Winthrop Avenue. I'm trying to give the judges time to tally up all these great tellers to see who the winner is. We have first, second, and third places. Okay, and the winners are. And we are going to take pictures at the end. Third place.
Can I get one more?
Is that not Tim? Tim? Tim?
We knew if you did it with Tim.
You have to our third place winner. Ronan's got the money, he's gonna give you the cash. Our second place winner is Chap Black. Congratulations. And our first place winner is Jessica Heck. And if you come on over here, we'll take your pictures. Take yellow stuff so we can have a drawing for our next event, our final event of the season. Your left is hilarious.